Hello, friends. This is Sam Chaney reporting for Weaponized News. Today's February 18th, 2026. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday edition of Weaponized News. We're going to skip all the intros and get right to it. We have two guests on the line. We have Jeff Dornick announcing the launch of Pickaxe. We're going to go over all of that, cover the social media computer landscape. The government has just announced they're launching Freedom.gov. Should we trust that? I seriously have my doubts. All this and much more, and we have Ruckus, our regular Wednesday guest, joining us as well. Let's jump right to it. We'll play. Here is the trailer for the launch of Pickaxe on February 24th. Let's play that as the segue to our guest, and we'll get to all of this for you.
Social media was built for connection until it stopped serving people. That changes with Pickaxe. No algorithms deciding your reach, no manipulation behind the scenes. You choose what gets seen because you are the algorithm. Publish articles, post videos through Rumble, monetize your content without fighting the system. Made for humans, not algorithms. Download Pickaxe on the iOS App Store or Google Play, or join us at pickaxe.com.
So that's exciting. Here's Jeff Dornick. How you doing, Jeff?
Doing pretty good. It's all the last minute crap we got to get done before launching this thing on Tuesday.
It's exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Let's bring on Ruckus. How you doing this Wednesday, Ruckus?
Very fine. Thanks for having me again, sir. I missed that. I like when you usually do this day in history, and it's a shame we had to blow through that for the benefit of our guests. But I will bring up one this day in history for everybody.
What happened on this day, Ruckus?
Well, actually, it was on yesterday, so I'm a day late. But on February 17th of 2025 was my first appearance on Weaponized News. Yay! So, and then, of course, I've made every effort as possible. So with a few exceptions, I've been on every week, at least once with you since then. So it's been a pleasure and an honor, and I'm happy I've been able to contribute in this manner. And I look forward to a whole nother year of this, Sam. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Ruckus, for your contributions to Weaponized News. Jeff, what do we do? The AIs are hiring humans to go do real world tasks. Have you seen this?
I think I saw the headline. I don't know a lot of the details on this one.
It's a trend going on now where AI agents have created a website where they will hire humans to go do real world activities. I saw anything from delivery driver to counting physical objects in the real world, and then report that data back to AI agents.
When you think about it, it's basically they're already conditioning us to be their slaves, and it was a few years ago that Elon was on with Benjamin Netanyahu talking about the future of AI and where it's all taking us, and he said it's going to be one of two things. It's either going to be heaven on earth, which he described this hedonistic lifestyle where basically we don't have to work and they're going to give us everything we need and we just think about it and we're connected to the internet and all that kind of stuff, or we're going to be slaves and it's going to be Terminator. So it feels like they're already starting to train us for the latter.
Feels like Terminator technocracy. We have the technocracy right there in the White House. We were conned by Doge, and it looks like they just backdoored AI Palantir into running the government essentially here now, Jeff. It's very scary, creepy, and all these moves, looking to take on Canada, looking to take on Greenland, already took over Venezuela, looking to take on Cuba, all look to be building the American technate. What are your thoughts on that? Have you seen any of that? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just had on Alex Newman on my show yesterday, and we were talking a bit about this, and it was interesting how again, being conservative, and I voted for Trump every time he ran for president and all that kind of stuff, but also we have to be real about what's happening within the Trump administration. What's happening within the Trump administration is they are fast tracking artificial intelligence, which all that will do is centralize the power and ultimately if you take it to its natural conclusion, is actually going to make it to where you're going to have a handful of tech elites that are going to be more powerful than the government. We're going to be dependent upon these tech elites for everything, not necessarily our government. And so, and at the same time,
we can't even hold a human accountable. They went in there, exposed all this fraud. Everybody got all pissed off, and they're like, "Well, now you don't even have to deal with corrupt humans. You can deal with your AI agents."
Well, yeah, well, it's really interesting because this goes to this very foundational conversation that I think a lot of people haven't had. We've got one guy that's actually on Pickaxe. His name is Ted Rall, and I always tell this story in a lot of interviews because nobody's really heard this story. But he's a leftist political cartoonist and columnist, and he wrote an article in one of the major outlets basically asking the question: if ChatGPT slanders you, who should get sued? Is it the company? Is it the developer? Is it the data point of what it's referencing? And he asked that question. Well, how did OpenAI respond? They respond by deleting him from existence in their database. So if you go over to ChatGPT right now and you ask ChatGPT, who is Ted Rall? It will begin to answer. It'll get about halfway through his name, and then it'll say, "We're sorry, we cannot complete this answer because it violates our terms of service." So he's deleted from existence. Now think about this. OpenAI also has government contracts, so the same large.
Yeah, they're launched at the Pentagon right now. It's extremely concerning that the Department of War is rolling out all these different AI systems, i.e., Terminator, i.e., Skynet, i.e., it was a documentary.
Yeah, well, but think about this: if they can delete him from existence in their large language model, right?
Yeah.
Then if they have a contract with the government, is he deleted from existence within the confines of that work that they're contracted to do? Now you're getting into the AI making certain decisions that the government is then implementing, and if they can pick and choose who is allowed in the large language model, who's allowed in their database, how the AI interacts with different people's names based upon those parameters. I mean, now we're looking at they truly do have more power than the government because they're the ones that are making the decisions.
Will they add you to a targeted kill list?
At this point, that's questionable for any of us that actually,
as they're doing in Gaza with Palantir Lavender software.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing is that I always say that if you look at what happens in movies, so in Hollywood, it's usually about, give or take, about 20 years in advance. So whatever you see in a movie now is going to happen in about 20 years. Well, about 20 years ago, there was a movie called Eagle Eye that came out. I don't know if you saw it with Shia LaBeouf, where you had an AI that was making decisions for the government, felt like the president was making the wrong decision, and that basically blackmailed Shia LaBeouf to basically go try to assassinate the president and the entire chain of command all the way down the line because it felt like the president was making the wrong decision. And so, it basically had a bunch of kill lists and you should assassinate this person and that thing and, all of that. So, I mean, that was happening about 20 years ago. And now you're talking about it now. I mean, it kind of fits with my theory.
Let's play the clip of this is Macron, the King of France, or what he said. I remember when he was first appointed there as president of France, he declared himself Sun King. This is probably like 8 years ago or something. I was just like, that's pretty crazy. Here he is today saying that free speech is pure bullshit. Let's play this clip and get your guys' reaction.
Because, I mean, free speech is a pure bullshit if nobody knows how you are guided through this so-called free speech, especially when it's to be guided from one hated speech to another hated speech. I just want to have a transparent road through these different speeches, and I want, by the way, to have a sort of public order. I want to avoid racist speech, hated speech, and so on. That's my... And the third one...
Free speech bullshit. I guess it depends on the context. We can't have no hate speech, bigotry, or anything that offends anyone at any time because that's hurtful.
Yeah, well, but also when you think about it, that this is the natural conclusion. This is the natural result of a secularized society, and one of the things that's the foundation of this country here in the United States is this idea that we're created in the image of God, and because we're created in the image of God, we have certain inalienable rights that are given to us by God that cannot be taken away by the government. But that's under a presupposition that there is a God. God created us, and because God created us, we have value as an individual. Well, the secularization of society results in this idea that God does not exist, and if God does not exist, then there's no rights giver. If there's no rights giver, you don't have any inalienable rights. So when you look at like what Macron's saying over there, and a lot of the far leftists and a lot of the people that are denying the existence of God in public life, within government and all of that, the natural conclusion to that is that free speech is BS. Because guess what? You don't have an inherent right to free speech because there is no God, and there is no rights giver if there's no God. And so this is just the natural reaction. This is why we see all of our rights being constantly attacked by the far left, by this group of people that deny the existence of God, and why there's so many attacks on God, from the far left. And this, again, it's because if they can get you to believe that God does not exist, then they can get you to believe that you don't have any inherent rights just by being alive.
I thought the only reason we have government is to protect our natural rights. That's what they told me, but turns out that's not what they're really doing here now.
This is Donald Trump's department, isn't it? I thought he was the spiritual father of our country. I mean, we would be lost without a strong moral and biblical leadership. At least that's what some people out there seem to think. I'm not sure where they get this crazy idea from. Look at this picture, Sam. He's actually he's got his hand on the Bible, unlike when he took his oath to the office and to the Constitution. Oops, weird.
They're also selling Trump Bibles, and his head of spiritual advisor, Paula White woman, is extremely creepy and evil.
Well, Paula White was the one that was having an affair with Benny Hinn, wasn't she?
I don't know, but she drops a lot of esoteric occult hints when you hear her talk in coded language for those that can hear what she's actually saying. And it's very disturbing to me that that's a top spiritual advisor to Trump.
Right. Well, and this is the thing. This is the thing that I think we have to deal with when you're dealing with somebody like Trump, is that you have a large sector of the evangelical base that has spiritualized Donald Trump and spiritualized his presidency. Whereas and again, I voted for the guy. I've been pretty staunchly opposed to his administration this time around because in last time around I was quite critical, but this time around especially because I feel like they are not.
Jeff, next guy up is JD Vance. He's handpicked by Peter Thiel technocracy. You know what I mean? So they left us with no choice. Say what?
He was business partners with Peter Thiel. I mean, like that's the reality. Like they work together. That's
what brought him to prominence, is his relationship with Peter Thiel.
Right, and we wonder why did all these Silicon Valley tech CEOs coalesce around Donald Trump after Trump got elected? Oh, it's because they were all in ties and with JD Vance and Peter Thiel, and they're the ones that brought the Elon Musks and the Larry Ellisons and Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg and everybody to the table, is because they are Silicon Valley, and this is to me. This is one of my biggest concerns, not my only concern, but one of my biggest concerns with the Trump administration and then what's going to result afterwards, is their fast tracking of artificial intelligence without any guardrails, without any regulations, without any consideration for our constitutional rights. And then the heir apparent of JD Vance is Silicon Valley himself. And so then you're going to have it fast tracked on steroids because he's invested in Silicon Valley. And so when we actually look at it from that perspective, like, it's deeply concerning, because you listen to Bill Gates, you listen to Elon Musk, you listen to these guys. What are they saying? They're all saying within less than a decade, AI and Optimus robots are going to replace all of humanity in the workforce. There's going to be no more need for human beings to be in the workforce. They're going to take away all of our purpose. They're going to take away our individual sovereignty, because if you don't work, you're not going to be able to own property. If you don't own property, are you really free? No, we're going to be slaves of this elitist technocratic class. Like, that's where all this is going. And this is where, and again, I don't regret my vote for Donald Trump, because Kamala Harris would have been horrific. But I will say this. The result of a Trump presidency, if they don't shape up, especially when it comes to artificial intelligence, the end result could be far more catastrophic than what we would have seen under a Kamala Harris regime, because of what they're doing with artificial intelligence specifically?
Man, well, I want to tell you, I did not vote for Trump this time around because I'm staunchly anti-war, and I saw all this coming. Hey, we're right on the edge of major regional war, potential world war with Iran right now. A third of our Navy is sitting there over off the coast of Iran, and they have all kind of military equipment, planes, troops. That it's there's a giant buildup there, and it's getting very scary here now, looking like imminent. There's reports, Axios, all over the mainstream. They've been saying it for a couple months here now, beating the war drums, but they're saying an attack on Iran is imminent. That's Axios today.
Yeah.
Sam, calm down. If something happens to Iran, China and Russia will step in to help them. Oh, wait a minute.
That's what I mean. That turns into a giant world war at that point, doesn't it?
Well, but also it's like, I backed Kennedy during this last time around when he was running. He was very anti-war in his rhetoric of what he was talking constantly about how his uncle kept being pressured by the military industrial complex and the CIA to get involved in all these regime changes, and that's ultimately what led to his assassination. And so, I think what Kennedy ended up doing is bringing a very anti-war, anti-interventionist war, especially crowd over to the Trump administration, and Trump leaned into that. So a lot of his rhetoric was actually, I was the one that got us out of all the wars and the last time around and all of that kind of stuff. And it seems like, the people that have taken over the Trump administration are the neocons, are the ones that are trying to get involved in all the wars, get us
little Marco Rubio.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you look at it, the Trump administration is going back on their promises that they made during the campaign. And what's frustrating is that nobody in the Trump crowd really seems to care. They're just going to cheerlead everything that he does.
It sure looks that way to just turn up to cheerlead everything he does. It's disturbing. I'm predicting right now, if things stay the way they are, Republicans are going to lose the midterms. Trump's going to be impeached, and
we're probably going to have Gavin Newsom as president of the United States come 2028,
and may very well all position Gavin Newsom as
and think about this. Think about this. This is one of my biggest concerns, and I've been shouting this from the rooftops and talking to everybody they can that's even loosely tied with the Trump administration and all that, is, okay, so they're implementing artificial intelligence across the federal government, right? And almost every single department is being taken over by AI. They're using AI now to where they're going to be fast tracking like FDA approval of pharmaceutical drugs. They're using AI for massive data collection. They're centralizing all the databases, which is horrific, because now if you hack into the one database, now you get access to everybody's information, as opposed to decentralizing it. So then you have to hack into 150 different things. But think about this. Even beyond that, if we're fast tracking everything with AI, and AI is now kind of basically going to be running a lot of these bureaucracies, what happens? And let's just give the Trump administration and RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard and everybody the benefit of the doubt. Let's just hypothetically say that they're not going to abuse artificial intelligence at all for their own benefit. Let's just hypothetically say, what happens if and when Gavin Newsom becomes president of the United States come 2028, and you've just implemented artificial intelligence across the board to fast track everything, that collects all of our data, that is making decisions that, as opposed to a human making the decision? What happens then? All of a sudden, now you're going to really wish that we didn't have a centralized system that's run by artificial intelligence. You're going to wish that we would have been decentralized, focused on humans making decisions that can be held accountable. And everybody's like, oh well, the Trump administration, they're not going to abuse the system. Yeah, what happens when Gavin Newsom becomes president? We're screwed.
Jeff, they're building giant migrant detention center warehouses all over the country that can easily be flipped into FEMA camps for you and I, or any dissidents, that whoever's running the government, or maybe just AI Skynet does turn sentient and says, we don't like any of these dissenters, time to put them in the migrant detention, i.e. FEMA camps.
Yeah, here's my thing. I think it's going to be more subtle, but more dangerous than that. Okay, so I don't think my opinion, this is just my opinion for what it's worth. is I don't foresee them going around and rounding everybody up that they disagree with and throwing them up into FEMA camps. What they're actually going to be doing is they're going to allow the tech companies to take over everything. Okay, so if you look at what Elon Musk and Bill Gates and everybody's saying, is that the end game of all of this artificial intelligence is like I said earlier, that you're not going to be able to work. So what does that mean? It means you're going to be living on universal basic income, but not from the government. What if you listen to them? They're actually talking about it's universal basic income as a dividend from the tech companies. Now, the government allegedly has a constitutional responsibility in order to protect your constitutional rights, right? So there's different things and different parameters, allegedly checks and balances and all that kind of stuff. But if a tech company does it, there's no checks and balances. They don't have anything to do with protecting your constitutional rights, as we learned during all the Twitter files and all that kind of stuff. So think about this. If all of a sudden they take away your ability to work because robots and AI are going to do everything, and then you're now reliant upon the tech companies for universal basic income, or aka a dividend from them for taking away your job, then what happens if they're like, well, you know what, we don't like what you're saying, we don't like what you're spending money on, that's going to affect the global warming, it's going to do this, that, and the other thing, so we're going to cut you off, we don't want to be associated with you. Talk about debanking. Now they're taking away your entire livelihood, and you have no recourse, because guess what, you can't work because there is no jobs. So now what are you going to do? Because now the tech companies are more powerful than the government, because we're allowing them to implement these mass implementations that we will have zero recourse and be completely dependent upon them. Now imagine what kind of self-censorship we're going to have in that kind of scenario, where everybody is actually legitimately terrified of being canceled, because then if you get canceled, how do you put food on your table? Like that's something we're truly going to have to face in the future.
I love AI. I just want everybody to know I'm looking forward to all of this. It's wonderful.
You're going to merge with AI and become one with the AI, and I mean, that's just we couldn't be happier.
They're saying,
who am I kidding? I'm gonna see you in the FEMA camp, gentlemen, for sure.
Elon says we're at the cusp of the singularity.
That's what they say. I mean, it's interesting, because I've been having a lot of conversations with a lot of different people, because with Pickaxe specifically, I'm taking a very anti AI approach.
Let's ask you on Pickaxe, Ken. How are you guys going to defeat the bottleneck at the app stores? Because that's how they police the speech, right? They say, if you don't comply with our terms and then enforce that on your users, we're just not going to even allow access to Pickaxe app through our duopoly of app stores, Apple and Android, right?
Yeah, so we are right. So right now we are approved for release on Tuesday in the Google Play Store, and we're working through the final phases of getting approved in the Apple App Store. And the big way that we've been able to do it and still be a free.
But what if I'm on Pickaxe saying I hate Apple all day? You know what I mean? They're going to be like, we can't have this guy, I just turn my whole life into exposing all bad about Apple. You know what I mean?
Right. So right now, in order to get mass adoption, obviously we're going through the app stores. There's also some different things that we can do as workarounds into the future that we're also going to be building out, as well as a precaution in case. Just like we have backups on servers, we got backs up. We have different things that we have in place to where if somebody attacks us from one direction, we can flip a switch and we're good to go on the other end. So we have kind of a contingency plan from that standpoint. From that standpoint of the direction we're going to go. But the way that we've been able to get into the app stores as of right now and be approved and still be a free speech platform is that we're leaning very heavily into our verification system. And so if you look at Gab and you look at Parler and a lot of these others that got into trouble with them, a lot of the problem postings were from anonymous accounts and from trolls and from bots and things that might not be verified. So a lot of the really, what Apple would deem as bad rhetoric that you see like on Gab is actually coming from anonymous accounts that you have no idea who they are. They've got a Nazi symbol as their profile picture, and there's no recourse for that. So what we actually do is we're actually leaning very heavily into our verification system, to where if you see a blue check mark, then you know that that is actually a human being. So we're verifying identity. We're verifying that you're in the United States and that you're at least 18 years old, and then we delete the photos of IDs immediately after. So we're not storing any information or anything like that. But this way we can lean into being a very human-centered platform, where if you see somebody with a blue check mark, they are who they actually say they are. And then a lot of times people are not going to want to be pushing the same rhetoric that the app stores would say is problematic if they can't hide behind a fake name. Now, again, not all the cases, but we've been committed. We have it very blatantly in our terms of service that if it's legal speech, you're allowed to say it on the platform, with the exception of pornography. So we ban pornography on the platform as well for a variety of reasons. But outside of that, the main way we've been able to stay a free speech platform is through our verification system, because then there's a check and balance where I don't have to get involved as a platform. Is that if you say some pretty awful stuff, people are probably going to reply to that, and they're going to know who you are. And then we let nature take its course without the platform having to get involved. And that's been kind of our way of getting approved through this whole system.
Some of the things that the people say on the platform, can't that inspire other people to go out there and do hateful things? According to some people, some things people say and do on social media these days gets immediately considered anti-Semitic, for example. Just one example of many. I mean, that's the current flavor of censorship right now. We saw what they did with the medical information, misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, etc., during the pandemic. What thoughts about that kind of a scenario?
Yeah, so we're not going to ban anybody or censor anybody for what they would deem as hate speech, right? And so the way that we look at it, if there's an actual call for violence, that's one thing. That's something that that we would step in and deal with appropriately. If there's somebody that's saying something hateful or racist or bigoted or something like that, there's multiple things that you as a user can do. You could block them, you could ignore them, you could respond, call them out, the whole deal, without us as a platform having to get involved. And so the
you
only
could simply not be offended by whatever someone else is saying.
Well, I mean, here's the thing though. You're allowed to be offended, and that's freedom. You have the freedom of speech, but you have the freedom to be offended at whatever you want to be offended at. You have the freedom of any kind of thought that you want, but because you're offended doesn't mean that I as a platform have to step in and ban somebody because they offended you. So what we're looking at is the legalities. When you look at some of the other platforms that have gotten in trouble in the past, a lot of it, the spin in conservative media around like Parler and around even Gab to a certain degree has been the fact that, like, oh, they got banned for hate speech, they got banned for not censoring and all that. Well, the reality of it is that maybe they were, maybe they weren't, but but what actually got them and actually held up in court, and I went and looked at the court documents, was that they were refusing to actually deal with actual calls to violence. And so what ended up happening was that AWS and Apple and Google, they all basically told them, like, look, here's specific examples, here's specific posts that are on your platform. We need to figure out a way for you to basically deal with this, because there's actual legitimate calls to violence. You look at some of the posts, it was actually on there. The response that these other platforms actually had was that, oh, well, it's free speech, we're not going to get involved. Okay, but a call, if you're actually telling somebody you should go kill so-and-so, that should be dealt with, and AWS and all of them have a right to actually deal with that. So when we're looking at it from that perspective, I think we're taking the approach: if it's legal, you're not calling for violence, you're not coordinating terroristic activity, you're not very blatant things, we're not going to get involved, and we're actually going to be. I actually want to do a somewhat tongue-in-cheek training video where I'm going to teach people, this is what you do if somebody says something that offends you. You can block them, you can unfollow them, you can reply with them, reply to them, give a better argument, or just ignore them. You have multiple options that you can take. but reporting them for being offended is not one of the things that we're going to actually follow through on.
A lot of government rhetoric is extremely inflammatory, and their calls for violence from elected representatives. Nadler last week, old Penguin, he was saying he said shoot a Fed. He said shoot ICE if you feel threatened by them. You know what I mean? Like almost a direct call to violence, like this close to shoot Feds by a sitting congressman, Nadler, in the Congress. So it's like it's getting ugly out there, man.
It really is, and the thing that we're dealing with in today's society is that you have these elected officials and these politicians and this elite class that is
they provoke it, inflame it, and then get useful idiots, as we saw with and then it's probably organized as well, and they get their shock troops on the ground to go out and act on their inflammatory, violent rhetoric coming from both sides of the political aisle.
100%, and this is happening on both sides, and they're focusing on these wedge issues of trying to get us hating each other, and it's really interesting because again, I talked to that political cartoonist Ted Rall. I've had him on my show multiple times.
What does he say? It doesn't do any good to blame right wingers all day, right?
Right. Well, just and again, but my point though is that I think that. In general, if we could actually talk to people without focusing on the wedge issues, there's actually a lot of commonality across all of Americans when you actually look at it. But we're not allowed to talk like that because then it would be like, well, you can't agree with Bernie Sanders on something. Oh, what are you going to do? It's like, well, sorry, I agree with him on his assessment of artificial intelligence and it's going to take away jobs. So maybe I'm going to say Bernie Sanders, you did good on it. I agree with John Fetterman on certain things. I agree with Donald Trump on certain things. And that's the reality, is that you can agree on certain things, you can disagree on other things. For example, something as controversial as abortion is to me one of the most blatant examples of this. So, we're always focusing on the fight over conception and the extremities. That's what the fight is almost always over, right? So where we can never find a point of agreement. But if you look at polling, the vast majority of Americans believe that you shouldn't be allowed to have an elective abortion in the third trimester. Probably even a majority of Americans don't believe you should have an elective abortion in the second trimester. It's that, for the extremities, for the exceptions and all that kind of stuff. Why don't we pass legislation that bans elective abortions in the second trimester and the third trimester? Because we're fighting over when is a life, which is dealing with conception. Now, I agree. It's a philosophical debate that we should have. And the ultimate goal for me as a pro-lifer should be, we need to save as many lives as we possibly can. And life does begin in conception and all that kind of stuff. However, we should also save whatever lives that we can by passing legislation on where we actually have consensus. We have consensus in this country on banning elected abortions in the second and third trimester, but we will never be allowed to do that because the political elites are only going to allow us to debate the first trimester. And that's the perfect example of how we get nothing done, and they have us at each other's throats and not allow us to find common ground when there's a ton of common ground across the political spectrum.
And that what you just described there, as with all of these things, is at the behest. We're victimized thanks to the lobbyists. So again, they don't care about the consensus, the politicians, that is. They don't care that they are officials who are elected to do what the people ask them to do once they're in office. They get corrupted by power and money and lots of money and other bizarre trips that we can read about in the Jeffrey Epstein files, for instance, stuff like that, insider trading, et cetera. I mean, so, and ultimately what's going on with that debate is it's not really a moral issue because, as you say, I mean, if you talk to enough people, heck, even if like the people who want to have an abortion, sometimes when they're explained what really goes on and they see some photos and they learn some things, they change their mind. So it's like what's really going on is that there's a satanic elite group of people who run the organizations, who make a ton of money performing these things, and then all of the other. It's like a whole cottage industry, the whole abortion thing. And I'm a spiritual guy, so as far as I'm concerned, it's all about the. Sorry, that's the wrong picture. It's all about this. What we learned at the Epstein stuff. We get pizza parties like this, and they get pizza parties like that. So that's what we're fighting there with that kind of a thing, the abortion. But again, you can pick one, the pandemic.
Yep.
So they're like, oh, the miracle juice, it's all in there. Now we've got this problem where everybody's about to lose their job. What did Donald Trump do pretty much on day one of his second term now was he warp speeded Project Stargate, all of this money and investment through Larry Ellison of Oracle for the AI stuff, and then he paraded his wife around, Melania, as if she knows anything about technology, saying, the robots are here, the robot surgeons have steady hands, and we're using amazing technology in military operations. And I'm just like, what do you know, lady? What are you talking about? So it's freaky.
It really is. And again, it's I think that what the Trump administration is doing is very, very dangerous, especially with Stargate. And a lot of people don't realize this. Do you guys know where the name Stargate actually comes from?
Series.
There's actually about 30 years ago ish, maybe 40 years ago, there was a CIA program called Operation Stargate, which was all about remote viewing, which is interesting, looking at the ties between physical remote viewing and what they're actually implementing, which is basically artificial intelligence remote viewing inside your body. And so there are definitely some parallels between the Operation Stargate that the CIA was running versus this Operation Stargate that Larry Ellison, who, by the way, was actually started by the CIA's with their investment. So there's definitely some ties there that we should be very concerned about.
In-Q-Tel.
Yep.
Helped launch Oracle.
That was also a CIA project name too. I think he just copied it.
Mm-hmm. What do you guys think about this report out of Reuters? Freedom.gov, U.S. State Department is developing an online portal that will enable people in Europe and elsewhere to access content banned by their governments, including, quote, hate speech and terrorist propaganda. The site will be hosted at freedom.gov. That's a report out of Reuters. Do we trust Freedom.gov? I sure in the hell don't, but
I don't trust anything from the government. But but also, like, what's to stop other countries that ban content from banning that site in their country? It's like, okay, cool. So they banned X. Okay, fine. So now these people are gonna go to Freedom.gov. Okay, now they're just gonna ban Freedom.gov. I mean, I don't know what the long-term benefit of that is. It's great PR, and this is another one of my criticisms of the Trump administration is it feels like everything that they're doing is for PR and has very little teeth to it, right? And so
like all these trade gazillion dollars. Everybody loves America trade, and we don't actually. The White House. I've been following this stuff. They don't even publish the actual trade deal with the signatures. It's just all hype, like you're saying.
Well, yeah. I mean, and I think whether you're talking about like the Epstein files, they finally released it after Massey forced them to, but it's like I feel like they gave us the haystack, but extracted the needle to where everybody's looking for the needle in the haystack, but it's not even there. Same thing with the JFK files. When you look at the things that
MLK files, they officially claimed that the bats came from China. That's the official government story, and so it was leaked out of Wuhan. Is what the Trump administration has officially declared, right?
Yeah. Right. So everything's for a PR thing, but even the things that the Trump administration that's done that you could say are good, they're done by executive order, and so all it would take would be the next president coming in and sign a pen and say, I'm going to undo all of President Trump's executive orders. So are we actually fixing any of the problems? Or are we just putting at the very best band-aids, if not just spin on everything? And it's like at a certain point, we're going to need something if you want us to continue down this path of America first, MAGA, whatever it is, because it doesn't feel like there's anything to it except PR, spin, and certain executive orders that and I'll give Trump credit, like. Tom Homan has done a good job on illegal immigration and shutting down illegal immigration and all that kind of stuff. But then it's been a madhouse with all these deportations and ICE going around and all
We're
that.
not getting the mass deportations that were promised.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I feel like they could have gone about
because Trump even has said it himself. They're looking the other way on agriculture, hospitality,
right?
Other industries where they know are employing mass amount of illegal aliens, and they're looking the other way.
Well, so this is the thing about Trump is that I think that he's America first, but not necessarily Americans first. And what I mean by that is that he's America first in the sense of what's going to help the entity of America and what's going to help the big corporations, i.e., the stock market, right? And so from that perspective,
it's below 50. We can get the bad guys, Jeff.
Right. Well, but think about this. So he does all these trade deals. Okay, who does that benefit? That benefits the companies that are on the stock market. It doesn't benefit all the tariffs and all that kind of. It doesn't benefit the small mom and pop shops. It's not benefiting the actual farmers unless you're a big commercial farmer. It's not benefiting the average normal person. What it's doing is it's benefiting big corporations. So what they're touting is like the economy's thriving, the stock market's the highest it's ever been. Well, it always goes up because of inflation. That's just natural. What happens with the stock market? But when you think about it, it's like if you're on salary, your salary is not going up with the stock market. Your salary is staying the same as prices are continuing to go up. They're insanely high. Like, what are we doing to help the average mom and pop? What are we doing to help the small business? What are we helping to do for the hourly worker and the salaried worker? So what we're seeing is that the result is that the Trump administration is good for America as an entity, and it's good for America business in the sense of big corporations, but not always the best for Americans, the individuals. And I think that's a differentiation between, I think, the people that buy into the America First ideology that Trump first pitched us back when he first ran for president, compared to this version of America First right now. It's really two different platforms. One is America First, one is Americans First. And we've got to figure out how do we bring it back to the putting Americans first as opposed to America the entity.
Jeff, here's our corporate government, the sponsors of America 250, right here, what you're talking about. And they're not shy about it. And so here they are. I especially like Palantir being a sponsor of America 250, and also the GMOs. There was Scott's Miracle Grow. And so here is your corporate government, all these sponsors of America 250 there. That is America first for the corporations, but not for Americans, as you were saying there.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody could say that any of those corporations are either MAGA or MAHA.
Nobody can say that they voted for them either. Now, can they?
It's true.
But we are going to have UFC fighting cage matches on the White House lawn coming this summer.
What are you? What?
That's what they said. That's what they've been announcing. It. There's going to be a giant celebration. Enough America red, white, and blue to make you throw up. Red, white, and blue, all coming for July 4th, the big 250 celebration here now.
Yeah, here's the reality is that on one hand, it's frustrating because there's so many more important things that the White House should be focusing on than bringing.
We got homeless veterans, we got the chronic health crisis, and on the ground stuff, real issues for Americans.
But also on the flip side, it's not enough to get me so fired up that I'm going to go scorched earth on them. It's one of those things where I'm like, I'd rather focus my attention on something else.
Zuckerberg went to court today, Jeff.
Yep.
For abuse allegations on Zuckerberg went to court in LA today, facing allegations that Instagram and Facebook were harming children's mental health.
Yeah, I was looking at that, and I was interviewed on the radio earlier about this, and they were asking me about it, and I said,
is it Zuckerberg's responsibility to police his platform to protect minors?
So two things can be true at the same time. One, I don't think that social media platforms should allow minors on their platforms, especially unsupervised. But I think that I think it's very dangerous to be allowing minors on there. And we also do know that these big tech platforms are designed to be addictive because they want you on there, and they lean heavily into that minor crowd because they're on there for longer periods of times, and they're more easily addicted, which makes them more money through advertising and all that kind of stuff. So,
and they may not be aware of the social engineering algorithms designed, like you say, to keep you on there.
Right. Now, the other thing that is also true is that the parents also have responsibility here, and it's kind of hypocritical for in my opinion, for this family to be suing Mark Zuckerberg and social media companies and all that kind of stuff for their daughter being addicted when they started allowing their daughter to watch hours of videos on YouTube starting at 6 years old, and then by the time that she was 16 years old, that they're saying that she was spending 16 hours a day on social media. And they're trying to blame the social media platform as oh, well, it's addictive. And the mom, I tried to do everything I could to, help her to get off and all. It's like, well, did you try turning off your Wi-Fi? In my, like, that's just like, maybe it's a little snippy, whatever it is. But like with I've got a 3-year-old, right? Doesn't watch TV. The only television that he's watched is like when he's sick and we need him to calm down and just sit down. And that's like, he gets sick once a year because we didn't vaccinate him or anything like that. So very rarely does he get to watch anything, right? So, but when you think about this, it's like you're the parent. You don't have to stick a screen in front of your little kid and use that as the babysitter. And and so there is a certain level of, okay, you tried everything. Did you try turning off the internet? Did you try taking the device away? Did you try putting a password on the Wi-Fi? Oh, if that doesn't work, you could actually shut off the Wi-Fi altogether and just plug straight in with an Ethernet cord. You could always do that. I mean, there's lots of things that you can do as a parent to keep your kid off of the internet and off of these social media platforms, especially if you see that there's a concern. So, yes.
Don't buy them a smartphone. That could be one thing.
There's that too. They don't allow them to have a TV or a computer or phone in their bedroom. There's all different kinds of things you can do. So on one hand, yes, social media platforms should not be allowing minors on the platform. They are designed to be addictive for sure. Also, yes, the parents are also responsible because you allowed your child to get addicted to a social media platform, and you had all different kinds of things that you could have do to ensure that they don't get addicted and you get them off of the platform.
That's fair. Can we get
and then now it's glasses and wearables that have virtual augmented reality everywhere, and then the kids will get the brain chips because they're required to have the brain chips in order to do school.
Forget the brain chips. Forget the brain chips. It's not about the brain chips. They're going to be injecting it in your body. And I've had Karen Kingston on my show, and they're going to use like a hydrogel that has AI built into it that will actually be going inside of your body everywhere.
Excuse me, but hell no. I'll say no right now. I'll pass either one.
You don't want to be healthy, Ruckus?
Nope, not at all.
No?
I'm good.
Clearly.
Okay. Clear.
I don't care a darn thing about public safety or public health or any of it.
There was an old ABC show that came out many years ago, and it was called Once Upon a Time. And basically what they did is they took all of the classic Disney characters and they put them into this little town. It was like live action, whatever it is. There's one character, Rumpelstiltskin, that was there. He was kind of like the central, kind of like villain character in the show. And everybody would always come to him and be like, should what could we do to fix this problem? Should we use magic? Should we cast a spell? Should we do whatever it is? And his response was always, well, you could, but you have to remember, magic always comes at a price. So then you have to look at what are going to be the ramifications, because there's always going to be ramifications to using magic. And that's how I see all of this technology that they're developing, is that yes, there could be a lot of positives. Like for example, Elon Musk, he has a little bit of a Jesus complex. I mean, he's claiming to make the blind see, the paralyzed walk. Also, ironically, he's going to rapture up a percentage of the population and take them to Mars and establish a colony out there. But besides that, there's some positives there. But what are the negative ramifications? What's going to happen with when you have massive EMF exposure inside of your body because your body's connected to the internet? What's going to happen when you have like this synthetic stuff that's being injected inside of your body. Is your body going to reject it? Are you going to have an allergic reaction? Are you going to create all new kinds of chronic diseases? What's going to happen when you walk by a 5G tower? Like, what's going to happen? We don't even know. And we all know that they're fast tracking everything with the FDA to where they're not doing long-term studies on any of this kind of stuff. So what's going to be the cost? And then you throw on top of it our development of our brains and of our children's brains, because what's happening now is they're talking about, we're going to connect our brain to the internet. You just think about something, it'll give you the answer and you get access. So okay, great. So we're going to have a bunch of really smart dumb people that don't know how to critically think because they have access to all information, but they don't know how to think for themselves. So what's that going to happen to development of the human brain? Because now you're 100% dependent upon these big tech companies and artificial intelligence for every single component of your life. And then all of a sudden, maybe they don't like a thought that you had, or, the way you're spending your money, and then they cut you off. They don't allow you to be connected to the AI. Now you're just dumb because now you don't have access to the information. So now what are you going to do except comply and just go along with what they're saying?
What about the data centers, Jeff? These data centers, they're building them all over the place. It's sucking up all this electricity, and the cost is being passed on to your Joe Blow residential power consumer here.
Yep. I mean, this is one of those things that Trump was trying to get passed into the one big beautiful bill, and then he ended up implementing with executive order, I believe, to where it basically restricts state governments and local governments from regulating artificial intelligence, and including dealing with zoning laws, and to where that we could start setting up all these massive data centers that take up all water, electricity, all the natural resources, and then basically pass the buck off to the local people that live in that town. And again, this is one of those things where like, okay, sure, technology is great, but if your justification is, well, we have to beat China, okay. So now you're saying mutually assured destruction, because that's basically what's happening right now.
We're in an AI Cold War, a race to the moon. We're in a Cold War with China right now.
Well, on
many fronts.
Do you realize what we could do is not go digital on everything? Everybody is always like, we need to go digital. We need to bring all of our medical records online. We need to take all these records from the DMV, from the government. We need to digitize it, put it all online. Well, guess what's going to happen in a couple of years? You implement quantum computing. Now everything that's online will be access to everybody, because nothing can be encrypted, because they're going to have access to all the information. You know what would keep all of your information safe from artificial intelligence? A physical copy on a piece of paper, because they can't hack your piece of paper. Last I checked, exactly. So when you actually think about it, what they're doing is not only centralizing all the power, they're centralizing the databases into one centralized hub, but then on top of that, they're also creating the technology that will allow them to hack and access all the information, whether you're a good actor or a bad actor, as opposed to realizing, what we could do is we could just have a physical copy of our birth certificate instead of digitizing it, or having a physical copy of my medical records instead of digitizing it. And then guess what? Then I'm safe. Then I'm secure. But we're doing the exact opposite of what we should be doing by centralizing everything into one massive data collection scheme.
Are they going to force us into digital ID using voter ID as a cover? It looks like that may be one of the reasons why we're having so much problems. As you were talking about earlier, the majority out there clearly are for voter ID in this country, but yet Congress just can't seem to get it done. Although if everybody has a digital ID, we don't need that physical ID to show when you vote.
Yeah. I mean, again, this whole thing over ID is like one of like the dumbest arguments that I've ever heard. Because I remember I went to one of RFK's speeches.
Jen, how I got a driver's license when I was 16 years old, and it wasn't a hard thing to do. You know what I mean? Really?
I think it's what, $12. Like it's not a big deal. Okay, but let's just hypothetically say that $12 is too much for you. You can't afford it, whatever it is. Why? I mean, our government offers free healthcare to illegals and food stamps. Why don't they just make it free to get an ID? It probably costs them 30 cents to print and take a picture of. Like, why don't they just say, okay, like, why don't we just make IDs free? Except, oh wait, the government's making bank off of us having to renew our IDs every couple of years. But it was interesting because I went to
and they can't scream that you're discriminating against people who can't figure out how to get an ID.
Right. Well, yeah, it was interesting because I remember I went to one of RFK Jr.'s speeches that he gave at the Nixon Library out here in California, and one of the things that he proposed was let's get a free physical ID that if you pay for it, you could go down to your local post office. We'll make you an ID, and then he's like, then nobody has an excuse because now everybody has an ID. But the problem is now the Trump administration, because again, Peter Thiel, JD Vance, all these guys, what they're doing is they're pushing for going with the digital ID. And one of my other concerns, beyond just the government having digital IDs, is that also the social media platforms are also developing their own digital IDs as well. And because you have to remember, they're going to be more powerful than the government. So they're going to have their own identification system online in order to, quote unquote, keep you safe. But all it's going to do is give them all control. So then all of your digital currency that's going to be tied with that social media platform, all of your data, everything will be tied to that ID. And if they feel like, oh my gosh, they said something bad, then they just shut off your ID. And then now everything that you had that was tied to that within their ecosystem, you're screwed because it just deletes it from existence. And so that's the direction that we're going right now.
That sounds like something familiar to me. Something I read like in Sunday school or something. Oh, that's right. The mark of the beast system. Yes.
There is that, it's almost as if the Bible, may or may not be true. I'm just throwing that out there.
Imagine that, right?
It's almost as if they're fulfilling the prophecy themselves.
Yeah. Well,
that.
Well, and it's interesting too because the more that I dive, and I've had several conversations with Karen Kingston and a few different people about this as well, where I feel like the more that I dive into quantum computing, the more that I truly believe that it's demonic and it's opening up a portal to another realm. Variety of things. Even if you split it up and you take one part to Australia, one part to America, they're still connected. And if you do something, you deal with it over here, it'll affect it over here. Like there's a lot of craziness dealing with quantum computing. But when you think about it, it's like, okay, if my theory is correct and that is my guess based upon everything is that quantum computing is demonic. It's probably opening up a portal, communication with otherworldly beings or demons or fallen angels or whatever it is you want to say. So then what we're going to do is we're going to combine that with artificial intelligence to basically make it actual demonic intelligence. And then we're going to inject that into everybody's body, which is basically mass demonic possession. When you think about it, this is just a reincarnation of Genesis 6. This where you had the fallen angels combining with human biology. And so this would be the first time, if we're combining technology or quantum computing or artificial intelligence with human biology, this is really the first time that we're having something of that nature happening in human history since Genesis 6. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. And also this would also make sense when the book of Revelation talks about if you take the mark of the beast, basically you're screwed, right? Because you get the mark of the beast if it does have this kind of technology that's subjected to you, that's basically taking control of your mind. Elon Musk said that Neuralink has the ability to erase your memories and replace them with new ones. If they have this kind of capability, then of course you combine with this technology, there is no hope for you anymore because they control your mind.
You made the choice to opt into the Antichrist system.
Yep, it's true.
How about this one? Jeff? The came out yesterday. Meta has secured a patent for an AI system that can keep user accounts active after you're dead. So you can be dead, and AI is still going to be running your account like you're still alive.
Yep.
Meta would create a digital clone trained on user-specific data, including comments, likes, and content history to mimic how the person interacted online. Is this kind of like the transhumanism of you'll live forever, upload your soul, your consciousness to the mainframe, to a quantum computer? Like, yeah, what's going on? Can I get, once I'm dead, can I still post on Pickaxe?
Well, not on our platform, but But Elon just invested $65 billion into developing artificial intelligence, and the whole point of it is to replace human content creators altogether, and replace them with AI generated content creators. And so this is the path that they're going down. And also like already right now, some of the fastest growing accounts on Instagram are AI generated content creators. And so their ultimate goal, from Meta right now, is to actually make it to where humans are no longer content creators. We're just the consumers. They will create the AI generated ones. And what does that mean? That means that they can claim to be a free speech platform because they control the speech that's actually on there. They keep all their advertisers happy because they don't have to censor an AI generated content creator because they control their artificial intelligence. And so in Zuckerberg also says something really concerning a few months ago where he was saying that humans have the capacity for, and I forget what the numbers were off the top of my head, but let's say 30 close friends. But the average person on social media only has, let's say, 10. So what we can do is we can actually fill that gap with AI generated friends of yours that are customized to you, and then you can begin to have relationships and friendships with these AI bot friends that we can generate for you. So now you can have your cup that's completely full instead of a third full of what you need with these AI generated friends. This is the kind of craziness that these guys are talking about, and they have no recourse. They're
solving the loneliness epidemic while simultaneously calling for lockdowns.
Well, they're fixing the loneliness problem by making us more lonely because we're not going to have any actual human friendships. And I remember I had a psychiatrist on my show, and we were talking about this idea of what's going to happen when all of this AI gets fully implemented. Because like you think about it, we already have a mental health epidemic right now where everybody has mental health problems, depression, everybody's on psychiatric drugs and all that. What's it going to be like when you have no more jobs, all of your friendships are AI bots, and also the AI bots, when you think about it, they don't challenge you. They basically reinforce your thoughts back to you, right, in a positive manner. So imagine if, like, to me, a true friend is somebody that will tell you the truth, whatever that truth may be. If you go off the rails, they come in and kind of pull you back in and all that. But what happens when the AI just reinforces everything that you're saying? Your depression, yeah, you know what? I get why you're impressed. It makes sense, blah, blah, blah. And you reinforce it as opposed to trying to suck them out of it. Like, this is going to be a major problem. And to me, we're going to have a lot more psychological issues heading into the future of AI. This is one of those things where, like I was talking about, like, what's going to be the cost of.
There's already been suicides tied to it, right?
Oh, 100%. It's gonna go haywire. I can promise you.
Ruckus, what do you think? Do you want an AI agent running around the internet after you're dead, posting for you?
Does it really matter what I want, or are they going to do this anyways?
They're probably going to do it anyway, and they're saying also it could simulate video and audio from the dead person.
This is when, like, I'm reminded of the fact that nobody, well, hardly anybody, but for the most part, the vast majority of users of these platforms don't read the fine print. And I remember that occasionally, every once in a while, a story will pop up because some people will actually read the fine print and they're like, hey, did you know that Facebook says they own every single thing that you post? They own your picture. They own your personality. Like, the wording has gotten very strange. So yes, I mean, like, some of my friends and colleagues have seen this coming for a long time. On social media right now, people are laughing because they're like, haha, people on Reddit were talking about this years ago because there was a whistleblower that came forward and said, guys, I'm an engineer at Facebook and we're working on something called Project Lazarus. And they said that they were going to do this. So it's like, if you're paying attention, this should come as no surprise. But again, they're going to do it anyways without our permission. So even if I cancel my Facebook account today, at some point, if they wanted to, they could resurrect a digital version of Ruckus. What I'm more concerned about with this stuff is considering what I do as a career, I guess you would call this, or whatever. I have freely given my voice, my face, all these countless hours of video and appearances and my thoughts and my ideas to the machine, to the internet, to all of the social media platforms, to everyone who likes and shares. It's been used to train ChatGPT now. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, at any moment, here's what I'm most concerned of. How do you know this is me right now? When Facebook comes out and says, hey, here's what we're thinking of doing is we're going to, after you're dead, we're going to have a digital version, like, Now they're just telling you that, hey, at any moment we could just make you disappear and no one would know. Like, you wouldn't even be missed because you just keep doing your thing.
Right.
That's what I'm more concerned about, like the black bagging digitally.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's like one of the things that we're doing with pickaxes is that we're making it to where you as a creator still own your own content. Basically you're licensing it to us in order to distribute and all that kind of stuff, but we don't own it. So you shut down your account or you leave, whatever it is, like that's not our data. That's not our content. That's your voice. That's your content. You own that. You can decide. You want to shut it down, you want to take it somewhere else, whatever it is. You're basically licensing it for us to distribute and disseminate and all that kind of stuff. And then you can decide if you want to take it down or you want to, fill in the blank. And so we were very intentional about that as we were writing out our terms of service and all that kind of stuff because of this very thing where, like we're not collecting data. We're not stalking you across the internet like Facebook and Amazon and all these different companies are. We're, like we're keeping certain kinds of like information and data within our platform so we can know, okay, what features are working, all that kind of stuff. But like, I don't have to collect data to sell you to show you advertising. I can cater the advertising to the content that you're looking at as opposed to your data history. And it's like, it's not that complicated to do. But it's just, they want the data. Data is king with these tech companies.
Are there ways, for instance, for your platform to protect the outsiders from scraping the data and using it to train their nefarious programs?
Yeah, so we're exploring some different things that we can do to implement from that standpoint because it is a concern because it's one of those things where like you look at Google and what they're doing with AI even just as simply as with their search results, right? So it's actually pushing a lot of bloggers out of their ability to support themselves because what the AI is doing, if you ask a question, hey, I want a recipe for sourdough bread. And so then what the AI robot will basically aggregate all the information from all the blogs and recipes that it shows and says, here's the best recipe that you could do. And then it'll show you the search results. Well, you don't have to click on anybody to get the recipe because it's right there. It gave you the answer. So it's actually using everybody's data in order to run them out of business. So one of the things that we're looking at is, how can we protect our users? And I don't have the perfect answer for it yet.
What's Pickaxe going to do about copyright claims?
So
X don't care. You see X, everything. There's so much copyright violation on X. I don't know how they get away with it. YouTube, you can't even play 5 seconds of a song in fair context use, right, and they flag you. So like, where are you guys at with the whole copyright issue?
So right now, we don't actually have video that's built into the platform. So we integrate with Rumble. So Rumble videos are playable in our newsfeed. So any copyright when it comes to video or podcast, like from Spotify, because that's playable in our newsfeed as well. Anything that comes from that you would be dealing with Rumble's policy or Spotify or whatever it is. So right now, the only copyright stuff that we would ever actually have to deal with would be like written articles right now. And in that case, like you could report, hey, here's a copyright, they stole my work, what they didn't cite sources or whatever it is. And then right now we would probably just take down that post if it was copyright, or work with that person in order to be able to cite the source. In the future, there may be a way to where we'd be able to implement it to where we wouldn't have to take it down for copyright claims, but actually just be able to add a cited source or a link back to the original kind of a thing. So there's some different things that we can do that I think wouldn't be complicated solutions to that problem.
They're kind of using the primary source as a buffer before it even hits Pickaxe.
Yeah. Right. Well, and also too, it's like this was one of the biggest fights over in the Hollywood strike for the writer's strike a few years ago, where they were actually, and it wasn't getting a lot of press, which was this fight over artificial intelligence. Because what the studios were actually beginning to do was write the first draft of scripts for movies using artificial intelligence, which that's where the writers make the majority of their money, is the first draft, because it's that inspiration. That's what's most valuable. So what the studios would do, they'd cut out the biggest expense for writing. They would basically put into AI and say, hey, we want an action movie that's a combination of John Wick with Guardians of the Galaxy, throw in this thing with this kind of a, lead character and all that. They would write the first draft, and then they would pass it off to the writers to do the second draft, third draft, fourth draft, and so on, which they all progressively pay less and less and less. And so one of the biggest fights over the Hollywood writer strike was the fact that essentially what AI is doing, it's plagiarizing the work of all the writers while cutting the writers out of their biggest revenue stream. So that's one of those problems that I think, in general, we have to deal with artificial intelligence as a whole, is essentially all the information that it's providing to us is plagiarizing all of us collectively, and nobody is getting cited with sources, nobody's getting royalties, nobody's getting paid, and it's screwing everybody.
Facebook, YouTube, they don't honor fair use. Right. You can create a piece of media, make it transformative by putting your own commentary or whatever, images, whatever, and then that makes it fair use, as long as you're not saying, I wrote this song, pay me. You know what I mean? But they don't honor that anymore as they once did. And so 5 seconds, they're flagging you, you're done on a 2 hours worth of show. You know what I mean? I play a 5-second clip with some music playing in the background, total fair use, in context, reporting on a news story, and somehow the whole thing's flagged for copyright. And by the way, YouTube back before any of this AI, or before they told us about it, I want to say around 2016, 15, they flagged me for copyright on my own voice.
Well, I got flagged for copyright for basically plagiarizing or stealing the music of this heavy metal band, whatever it is, because I used JFK's a conspiracy speech in my intro, and then I actually had an original music going beyond it. But because that band also used JFK's conspiracy speech in their song, they claimed copyright against my song, even though it was a completely original song and it was just using the speech of JFK, which is public domain because it's a presidential speech.
Because he's the government and we own it. We're the taxpayers.
Exactly. So it's, the whole thing is just stupid.
Oh, we lost Jeff.
Connection issues on my end.
There we go. Okay, Jeff, you've been with us over an hour here now. Let's go to the site, Pickaxe, and take a look and get our... See, anybody out there in the audience, you got any questions in the chat, let us know, and we'll ask Jeff about Pickaxe. There's my account, Weaponized News on Pickaxe. What should we know, Jeff? Sell it to us.
Yeah.
Why is this better than getting than X and all of them, right? X, Facebook, Gab. Why is Pickaxe going to be better than all those?
Yeah, well, honestly, because number one, we're free speech, and I would say we're freedom of speech and freedom of reach, to where we don't manipulate your reach. So if somebody follows you, they're going to see your content. We don't do all the algorithmic manipulations. So it's actually a chronological feed, with the exception that when there's engagement or a comment, it gets bumped back up to the top. And then we're not going to inject other people's posts that you don't follow, with the exception that if you follow somebody else who replies,
you're not going to ram cat turds down my throat.
Right, exactly. Unless you're following me and I reply to Cat Turd, you might see his post on there along with my comment. So that would be the way that you might get exposed to like a new thing. But I'm not using computers in order to manipulate your feed at all. So that's one of the biggest hooks that's bringing a lot of people over to the platform, is just that lack of algorithmic manipulation. Now, the cool thing is you can post regular posts. Obviously, you can post photos. If you post a link to a Rumble video, it's playable in the newsfeed. Like that video right there of our promo right there. That's a Rumble video. We just post the link. It auto populates the player and plays right there within the newsfeed. If you like something, you pick it. If you don't, you axe it right there instead of liking or dislike. Now, the other cool thing too is that you can write full articles directly within the platform. We're going to be rolling out a new feature, probably Q3, where it'll replace Substack, to where you'd be able to write an article, you'd be able to send it as an email newsletter. So there's that. You'd be able to build up your email list, use that for promotion, all that kind of stuff. And then, as a content creator, you'd be able to monetize on our platform. So we've got 3 different forms of revenue. You can either do an advertising revenue share, you can do affiliate advertising, and you can also do paid subscriptions as well. That's all built into the platform. So we've got a lot of things. Everything that we're trying to do with this platform is connect people to people, be very human centered. We're not collecting your data. We're not stalking you across the internet. We're not manipulating you with algorithms and all that kind of stuff. And I actually brought on this guy, Trevor Shipman, and he's our director of creative success. And his job is actually to work with the content creators to help you thrive on the platform. So we're going to be doing some creator summits virtually. We're going to be doing some in-person creator summits where we get everybody together in a room and we'll teach you, train you, help you to perfect your craft, get better at what you do, how to make more money, all that kind of stuff. So we're doing a lot to try to be as human-centered as we possibly can with this platform. And to me, what Pickaxes ended up being is just what I envision a social media platform should be as a creator, and that's basically how we built out Pickaxe.
What about the advertising? You mentioned that, so that's clearly part of the business model for keeping it alive, right?
Yeah, so we've got a couple different forms of advertising. So we do we'll do the standard advertising where we'll pay based on impressions and clicks and all that kind of stuff. We'd be able to target ads based upon the content that's being shown, as opposed to customized to you by stalking you across the internet. And then we're going to take 40% of the revenue that comes in from advertising and then divide it amongst our creators as a part of our revenue share. Then there's also, we're building out an affiliate platform as well, to where we connect our creators with brands that do affiliate advertising, promo code, tracking link, all that kind of stuff. So then you guys could promote it on shows, all that kind of stuff. But then the cool thing is that we'll also put ads within your article for those affiliate brands. And when those ads show up in those articles, it'll auto-populate your own promo code and auto-populate your own tracking link, to where you get full credit for any sales that are generated by those ads on your content. And then it'll keep track. You earn full commissions, the whole deal. And so that's another mode of monetization. And then we also paid subscriptions, where you can be a paid subscriber of a creator, and then put the article behind a paywall. You can that kind of thing, and then we'll be expanding that out as we go along as well.
So it's not just going to be a right-wing echo chamber, is it?
No, so we're intentionally we're getting a lot of conservatives on there for sure, but it's kind of more the center right crowd as opposed to the far right or the MAGA crowd and all that kind of stuff. Although there are definitely some. We're also bringing in some lefties. We got some RFK supporters, some independents, libertarians. We're also bringing on we've got a lot of gamers that are coming on because of our Rumble integration. As well, we've got some film critics. I'm working on bringing over some people from the health and wellness industry, entertainment industry, sports, all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna have a wide collection of people.
And your official public launch is going to be February 24th.
Yep, coming up on Tuesday. Coming up quick.
Tuesday. What do we do? What do we do for it, Jeff?
Well, so we're gonna be, so you guys can pre-register
delete
right
my
now.
Facebook. I'll just delete my Facebook on that day.
Yeah. That would be cool. So right now you can pre-register in the Google Play Store. You probably either today or tomorrow you'll be able to pre-order on the Apple App Store, and then it'll all drop on the 24th. We're going to be doing a massive live stream that day, bringing on a bunch of people. We've got commitments from a lot of big name people that are coming over to Pickaxe as well, that are going to be showing up there. We're just going to be live streaming all day, promoting it, all that kind of stuff. And then we'll be making some big announcements on some in-person events and maybe a concert on the beach and doing some pretty cool stuff coming up. So it's gonna be a lot of fun.
All right. You got any questions there, Ruckus?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because, I'm tired of the old stuff because, a lot of the things that you describe, it's the common sense stuff. It's like, this is the way social media was supposed to work. Some of it used to work that way. And I like, there was a couple things you said that I really like, in particular, the as a content creator, if I wanted to write articles, how you guys do all the secret sauce with the affiliate links ahead of time, and it's kind of clearly it'd be obvious to the reader that there are affiliate links involved. So yeah,
Right.
transparency. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's also a big deal for people. They want to trust the platform, that they're not selling the data, that they're not censoring them, not spying on them, and that they're open and honest about what they're doing. You did mention you have a little bit of a hookup there with Rumble. Here we are talking smack about Peter Thiel. Doesn't Peter Thiel have like an eyeball or a wallet or two involved with the Rumble platform?
I think Peter Thiel and JD Vance, I think, both invested in Rumble, when they went public and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, so there's definitely that, and that's the hard part, is that you're trying to figure out where do you align with people versus where do you divide. And so I think for right now, what we're doing is we're aligning with Rumble in the sense of, like, we're integrating with them. They've been very receptive to working with us without us having to compromise anything, which has been very nice. And I've always said, as long as I can have a good relationship with people that are not going to use and abuse our people, for sure, then I would rather align with companies that are like that I can work with, and then I can focus my attention on developing stuff that another company maybe hasn't filled that gap. But if we end up hitting a wall or facing an issue with Rumble, then maybe we'd have to develop our own video platform. So it's just one of those things that I always have in the back of my head of, let's follow this relationship as far as we can go. But if it comes to a head, then I'm prepared to kind of do our own thing.
How many people have you got on now? Like, how many users, and what's your goal?
Yeah, so we've got about 5,000 on right now in pre-launch, and then I'm hoping that we'll basically, my goal is to get up to about 100,000 here pretty quickly, which I think is pretty doable for a platform like this. But the nice thing is that we don't have a massive burn rate like most tech companies, right? So we can have a very self-sustaining model very quickly. To where I think we'll be set for the future, where we can begin to invest in further development and further infrastructure in a way that I think a lot of other platforms, they burn a lot of money very, very quickly and have very high burn rates. And so I was very strategic about that. And also, I'm also very lucky that we built everything from scratch, to where we didn't use like a white label. We didn't use an open source, coding or anything like that. Like, we literally built everything from scratch. And so I can kind of do whatever I want with the platform as we develop, which is nice. It's also one of those things I've always said, don't want to ever go public. I don't plan on selling. Like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so for me, I'm looking at this like, okay, what are all the different things that we can build? We'll use Pickaxe as that centralized hub that everything goes through for promotion and marketing and all that kind of stuff. But then we could develop a technology if there's a gap somewhere. Like, if we need to create an alternative to Amazon, great, we can do that. If we need an alternative to Spotify Music, great, we can do that. And it all flows back through the social media platform. So we just keep coming up with ideas and seeing where is there a need for a human-centered technology platform, and then we can end up developing it, and then we bring it back into the fold within Pickaxe.
Man, I've been following you for a while. I mean, you're not like, this isn't brand new. You guys have taken the time to develop and build this thing, and you've made the rounds. I've seen you on a lot of other programs before, and I've always been impressed with what you say. So, I mean, that goes a long way. I mean, you're not like some elitist billionaire unknown. So that's a good thing. I don't know if you noticed this recent phenomenon. I think it's something called upscrolled. I apologize if I got that wrong, but it was like people were so freaking angry about, I think it was X or something going on, and all the censorship, and just this Johnny come lately out of nowhere platform comes, just zing bang, and everybody's doing the thing, and like they burned their candle at both ends, and like they're exhausted already, their servers were down, and it's like, I don't know if this is going to succeed, and you guys have been really building, so I hope, for your sake and all of our sake, that this is going to be a successful platform. I thought I had signed up a long time ago. I'll double check. If not, I'm going to get myself situated there and ready for the official launch. So,
Perfect. It sounds good. Yeah, no, it's gonna be a lot of fun. We're getting a lot of people, coming over. Like, we've got Children's Health Defense came over, Vigilant Fox, Shannon Joy, Naomi Wolf. We'll have some big announcements, coming in on the on launch day as well. Some other, big names and that kind of thing. But a lot of it is because all these people are experiencing the same thing, which is they're getting screwed by the algorithms. And that's been, every time I talk to somebody, they're like, I'm getting screwed. big, small, whatever it is. And so at a certain point, I think that we're in a really good position to be that alternative to these big tech platforms in a way that can be effective. I think that these big tech platforms are so far into this data collection and these algorithm games that I don't think that they could actually come out of it if they wanted to. And so I think that we ended up finding a way to really set ourselves apart and offer something that these other platforms physically cannot offer to people, which is an algorithm-free social media platform that allows you to connect with real human beings. And if you see a blue check mark, you know it's a real human being. And then we weed out all the unverified accounts to where it's difficult, if not impossible, for them to get reached, to be seen, to trend, to affect trending, all that kind of stuff, to where it basically renders the bots useless. And so by doing that, we can have a truly human-centered social media platform where you're actually talking to a human instead of 65% of the time you're talking to a bot on X.
Jeff, I just followed you guys on the Pickaxe Rumble account there.
Nice.
And we do have a listener here that says that they signed up for Pickaxe and they will go over there and follow me. So follow Jeff too over there on the Pickaxe, and follow Ruckus too if he has an account over there. But the official launch here the 24th, next Tuesday. Any final words, thoughts before we let you go, Jeff?
No, I don't think so. I just hope that everybody will hop on. And I always say is too, like this is just our starting point. It's not our finish line. So like we're barely getting started. We've got a bajillion things in the pipeline of things that we're going to develop and grow and expand and all that kind of stuff. But everything that we've done, I've set up the business model this way is that, for us to make money as a company, it's because we're helping content creators to generate revenue. So when creators win, we win. When humans win, we win. That's how I've set up the entire structure. And so it's not like Instagram and Facebook that will use and abuse you, and they'll pay you money up until they don't need you anymore and then cut you out. We're looking at it of how do we incentivize you guys to win? How do we help you guys to win? And when you guys do, we do. And that's just kind of like our business model. So it's gonna be a lot of fun.
All right.
I'm just halfway joking here, but you should give a handicap to all those the jerks on X when they finally switch over, because they'll be the last ones to join. Maybe there'll be a little handicap for those guys or something.
Yeah, something like that. But the nice thing is that by getting in early, you'd probably be able to ride the wave, just kind of like you had in the early days of you had the Twitter stars and the YouTube stars and people like that really took off before all the algorithms kicked in. Might as well get in early, and then it'll be a lot easier to grow as there's a big influx of people coming in.
That's right, everybody. Hop in before I start making all the memes that are popular.
There you go. Hey, one thing that we may pop in there is having a meme builder directly within the platform. Just throwing that out there.
Dude, that'd be cool. That would be fun.
Be a lot of fun.
All right, guys. Pickaxe.com, the official launch, Tuesday, February 24th, coming up here next week. We appreciate it. All your work there, Jeff. We're going to keep on following, posting, and promoting Pickaxe.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you, Ruckus, as well, for joining us. Thank you, everybody in the chat there. Go get a Pickaxe account and follow Weaponized News and Jeff and Ruckus over there on the Pickaxe. And with that, as always, everybody do your own research. Peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Wednesday evening. And we'll be back here on Thursday for more Weaponized News.